Story 1. I think my elderly neighbor is being cuckooed, but the police won't do anything about my concerns. I live in a semi-detached house in England that's been split into 2 flats. I live in the upstairs one, and my neighbor, an elderly woman in her mid-80s, lives in the downstairs flat. We're sort of loose friends and acquaintances. I take her to bridge nights every so often or do her shopping, and she lets me use her garden when the weather's nice or sometimes lets me get food shopping on her card. It's that kind of arrangement. Every so often, I do a bit of baking and like to take her a little something, a slice of cake, for example. At the end of September, when I went downstairs, an older man came to the door. I'd never seen this bloke before, and he was probably in his 60s, not middle-aged but not her age, if you get what I mean, and dressed a bit oddly in a blazer and tie. He was very aggressive and asked what I wanted. I said I was there to see my neighbor, and he replied in a weird, faux posh accent, "Ms. XYZ is not taking visitors right now," but he took the cake and slammed the door in my face. Really weird, but I assumed he was her son or something. I know she has kids, but they're not usually in the picture. Since then, things have gotten strange. I've only seen my neighbor twice, once when she was in the garden with him, and once when she was being bundled into a car very late at night and came back in the early hours of the morning. Both times, she looked very uncomfortable. Over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed the curtains are always shut, and her garden is becoming overgrown and untidy. Some nights, I hear shouting. I can make out male and female voices, but it's not her voice. A few times, I've seen a Filipino woman coming to and from the property. Whenever I've encountered the man, when I'm leaving the house or when he's leaving the property, he's either ignored me or been very aggressive when I've tried to speak to him. Once, I asked if my neighbor was okay, and he threatened to contact the neighborhood watch. I roll. I contacted the police on 101, but they were dismissive, almost implying that since it's just an older bloke and not obviously related to county lines, which I don't think it is, they're not really interested. I was basically told it's probably just her boyfriend and that I should stop being nosy. I'm really worried about my neighbor, so is there any way I can get the police interested or maybe contact someone at the council? Thank you. Relevant comments. Comment 1. You could try adult social services at your local council. Even if there isn't enough evidence for the police to investigate, the way she's being isolated from you is a warning sign for elder abuse. Response. Yeah, something feels very off about all this. I'll give them a call, plus that MASH team and other poster mentioned. Thanks, mate. Comment 2. Dunno if this breaks rules for not answering the question, but I wanted to say thanks. I'm mostly a stay out of other people's business kind of guy, but this seems righteous, and I'm glad you're looking out for your community. Response. Thanks, pal. She's such a kind soul, and the moment I saw this weirdo at her door, alarm bells went off. Not something I can just ignore, especially since I don't even hear her voice anymore. It's weird as all hell. Update 1. First off, thank you to everyone who's responded and for all the great advice. I'm sorry I can't respond to each of you individually. Tomorrow, I'll contact MASH, the council's safeguarding team, and my MP and councillor to report the situation. I'll keep you updated when I get an outcome. Logging off now as I have work tomorrow, but thank you all so much. Update 2. Hi there. You might remember this post I made the other week about my neighbor being cuckooed. The short answer, she was, though probably not for the reasons any of us expected. So, what happened after the post? The next day, I contacted the council's MASH team as advised, and they were extremely helpful. They were immediately concerned and said they'd send someone to check on her. They also asked if I could keep a diary of any events, as they'd like to speak to me when they arrived, and I agreed to log whatever happened. The week went by, and more weird stuff happened. It was quiet for a bit, but then on Halloween, a group of older men showed up at the property, followed by some women, who I assumed were professionals that take off clothes. They left a few minutes later, screaming at the man in the flat. He kept threatening to report them to the neighborhood watch and was waving insect spray around. Every time trick or treaters came by, they got the same response. It was really strange. On Friday night, I saw my neighbor being bundled into a minicab, then returning early Sunday morning in a different minicab, with the old bloke screaming at the driver before rushing her inside. All very weird. Then, yesterday, 2 social workers arrived and spoke to me. I showed them everything I'd written down, and they agreed it looked like cuckooing, though they weren't sure why this old bloke was doing it or what he was using the property for. I wasn't there for the initial confrontation, but I know they went down to speak to him, and he immediately launched into his usual spiel. I'm going to report you to the NW, get off my property, etc. When they didn't leave, he sprayed something in their eyes and slammed the door shut. The police and an ambulance were called, and I helped wash out the social worker's eyes. From what I could hear when the police arrived, he tried the same tactic with them, spraying, not neighborhood watch threats, and it sounded like they tackled him and hauled him away in cuffs. The police found my neighbor locked in the box room, padlocked in, before they took her to the hospital. We later went into the property, and for the most part, it was how it had been left, but every door, and I mean every door, had a padlock. I did speak to my neighbor in the hospital. Her kids are coming down, and she explained that she met the man at her bridge club, where he claimed he was in the parachute regiment but was down on his luck and asked if he could stay with her for a night or two. Unfortunately, she agreed. Apparently, the first evening was fine, but the next day, while she was in the toilet, he attached a padlock to it and locked her in. That's when the abuse started. During the time he was living there, he tried to take control of the flat and her bank accounts with the goal of throwing her out. He would get angry and scream at her when she didn't comply, but she refused to respond to him. She didn't want to say much but mentioned he told people she was his cleaner and that the cars in the middle of the night were taxis taking her to hotels to try and get rid of her. I had to leave after that, but she did mention that one time, he held one of his little parties and that the flat was fine, except for someone smearing their literal crap on the wall. As for the man, I have no idea what happened to him. We've had all the locks changed, though we suspect he might try to return. One night, I even heard someone try to handle to the front door. My neighbor's going to stay with my sister once she's discharged, and some of my bigger mates from Warhammer have offered to stay downstairs just in case. Thank you all for your assistance, you were all amazing. I showed her all the comments, and she was blown away by the support, so a huge thank you from both of us. Story 2. My entitled daughter was bullying her stepsister, so I showed her who's boss by ruining her big birthday party and donated all her gifts to charity. I, 42 meters, have a biological daughter, Emily, 16 feet, with my ex-wife Jennifer, and a stepdaughter, 16 feet, Samantha, with my fiancée Amanda. Amanda and I have been dating for 2 years and moved in together in January. Amanda and Samantha moved 20 miles from their hometown, which isn't far, but it meant Samantha had to leave her friends behind. Initially, Emily and Samantha had a great relationship, with Emily introducing Samantha to her friend group. In March, Samantha turned 16 and wanted to have a sleepover with her old friends. She expressed that she didn't want Emily there. After a lengthy discussion, Samantha opened up about Emily being too pushy about the sister relationship. Samantha had initially gone along to keep the peace, but now she was extremely uncomfortable and wanted some distance. I understood and apologized for not noticing sooner. That night, I went to Jennifer's home to speak with Samantha. She was very upset, and Jennifer asked me to leave when I tried to comfort Emily. Emily didn't come over that weekend, and when I picked her up the following week, she barely spoke to me. Samantha tried to apologize and explain, but Emily walked past her. Since then, Emily barely speaks to me and completely ignores Samantha, though she has a good relationship with Amanda. This Sunday is Emily's 16th birthday, and Jennifer is hosting a big sweet 16 party for her. Some of my family is coming from out of town, and those who aren't have sent gifts or money. At breakfast, my niece and Emily were chatting about all the gifts Emily received and how great her party would be. I noticed Samantha looking upset, so when the girls left to get their nails done, Samantha broke down. She said Emily had been isolating her since her birthday, apparently telling her friends not to speak to Samantha so they could be invited to Emily's party, from which Samantha is excluded. My niece kept mentioning how little Samantha got for her birthday compared to Emily, which hurt Samantha because my side of the family doesn't acknowledge her, and Amanda's family isn't well off. When Emily returned, I demanded an explanation. She said her friends chose her when she explained why she wouldn't be speaking to Samantha anymore, and as for everyone else, she couldn't control their actions. She then said I couldn't be upset about Samantha not being invited. I lost my temper at Emily and announced there would be no party. I decided to take back all her gifts, which she would have to earn back, and donate all her money to a charity for homeless teens. I also told her she wouldn't be joining us for the Disney trip in July and that she needed to apologize to Samantha. First thing Monday, I planned to look for a family therapist. Emily argued that these were her things, and her mother was hosting the party, so I couldn't take them. I insisted that I could, and Emily locked herself in her room with some of her gifts and called her mother. Jennifer showed up at my house furious, accusing me of favoring Samantha over my own daughter and taking gifts that weren't mine. She took Emily and some of her gifts home, telling me to stay away from Emily's party. Emily didn't speak to me but told Samantha, "You win, he's your dad now, but watch your back, bish." Jennifer blasted me on social media, and my family threatened to cut me off unless I returned Emily's presents and money. Samantha blamed herself, but I assured her it wasn't her fault. Emily and Jennifer were to blame. I tried to contact Emily, but her stepfather answered and said she didn't want to talk to me. He accused me of ruining her sweet 16 and said she'd never forgive me. Did I go too far? Update. Emily's birthday party went ahead without me, and we didn't speak until today. Amanda took Emily's gifts the night I wrote the post and told me Emily didn't deserve to be punished, but she did deserve an apology. Jennifer and her husband texted and called me all weekend, but I didn't respond. I texted Jennifer that I would reach out to Emily on Monday to have a one-on-one talk with her. Jennifer didn't like this, but I refused to argue. Amanda and I discussed going forward all weekend. We decided to tell both girls about Amanda's pregnancy today, Monday, but separately. What I didn't mention in my last post is that Samantha is on the autism spectrum, along with other mental health issues, which makes it extremely difficult for her to make friends. This is why I was so hard on Emily. She knew and agreed to help Samantha. My last post was never about not inviting Samantha to the party, it was about Emily's behavior towards Samantha prompting my reaction. We will be moving back to Amanda's hometown, which is only 20 miles away, so there will be no issues with Emily's custody time. I think it will be better for everyone, and we have decided to go to both individual and family therapy. Samantha is still upset and wants to apologize to Emily for causing trouble, but we told her to wait a few weeks before trying, and she needs to respect Emily's boundaries and give her space. Emily came over today, and when I asked her to talk about everything, she didn't show much emotion. She said she saw Samantha as a sister and went out of her way to welcome her, but Samantha couldn't even be honest with her and sent me to do her dirty work. So, Emily felt she couldn't be bothered to fight with Samantha about it and cut her off as the only way she knew how. I said I understood that her friends chose her over Samantha, but I didn't think it was right to let Samantha's new friends turn against her for a party invite. Emily said she didn't tell anyone what to do, they made their own choices, just like my niece, and it wasn't her responsibility to fight Samantha's battles. When I asked her if she chose Samantha over her when I asked her to stay at her mom's the night of the sleepover, she said she did and that it would take a lot to change how she feels, but she's willing to give me another chance. I brought up Amanda's pregnancy, and Emily took a few minutes to process everything before giving an extremely mature answer. She said she's happy and hopes she'll finally get a sister. Jennifer has 2 sons with her husband. But at the same time, with everything that happened, she can't fully trust me not to choose my new family over her. It hurt, but I guess I deserved it. I apologized for everything and took accountability for my actions. Then I spoke to Emily about the move, which upset her because she thought she'd see me less. But when I took her to the car I bought her for her birthday, with extra presents inside to make up for the weekend, Emily was extremely happy. Obviously, she can visit when she wants after she gets her license. We agreed to have dinner just the 2 of us every Friday. I told her we need to talk more with Samantha and that if something is bothering her, she should tell me. She agreed, so it's a very early start and baby steps, hopefully in the right direction. Unfortunately, when Amanda came home, she told me Samantha didn't take the news about the pregnancy well and hasn't stopped crying since. So that's another issue to work on, but Amanda said Emily and Jennifer both texted congratulations. I want to make a few things clear before people assume. Jennifer already knows about the car. I brought up the idea in January, and she was with me when I collected it from the dealer in mid-May. We won't be moving until at least late August, and yes, Emily will have her own room to decorate as she wants. Emily will come over this weekend, but she has expressed she still doesn't want to talk to Samantha. Amanda is 7 weeks pregnant. Edit. I won't be updating anymore, especially on misogynistic comments toward a minor. But I'm posting this because I've received messages threatening Emily and Samantha. Emily just called me after reading the comments and told me to stop wasting my time because these websites have a reputation for hating on parents, especially step-parents and dads. I guess everyone is upset that no one got cut off, divorced, or arrested, like in the usual stories here. Maybe no one was ready for a realistic outcome. Thanks to some of you for the advice, even the harsh advice. For those who just came to criticize me, Samantha, and Amanda, you need to get out of the house once in a while. Bye. Story 3.
My doctors told my husband and I that our baby won't be normal, so I want to terminate the pregnancy, but my husband isn't letting me, and I don't know what to do. This was a planned baby, and I'm absolutely devastated. My doctors told my husband, 30 meters, and I, 31 feet, that our baby has many birth defects. I want to cancel, he does not. My husband and I met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are going to wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral and political views before even getting engaged, and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20, we made a mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate, and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Fortunately, we're in a good financial place, so I agreed and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him choose which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was also adorable. I don't want to reveal any personal medical history, so forgive me for being vague with the descriptions. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago, we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she experiences will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions who survive from early childhood to, in rare cases, even their teenage years. These poor children suffer so much pain and discomfort throughout their lives. They are very low functioning and need round-the-clock care, as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we'd know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and that we should renovate the nursery so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he could take a longer paternity leave. He wants to be by her side in the NICU until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now, I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities. I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned and we had no way to take care of a child. Now, we're in a pretty good place financially, so theoretically, we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. He called my best friend's parents stupid for having a second child after they already had a disabled one. Then he seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and that we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already, I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long, we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond, and he stormed inside. It's been a couple of days now, and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. Our son is very confused. I know he's grieving, but I really don't want to go further with this pregnancy. I love him so much, I have no idea what to do now. Relevant comments. My daughter has a 20-year-old autistic and bipolar daughter, my granddaughter. There are 3 daughters in total, one older and one younger. The autistic child cannot self-entertain and will always have the mentality of a 6-year-old child. My daughter's marriage fell apart, and the ex-husband wasn't around to take any responsibility. Plus, my daughter was rarely reimbursed for medical and dental out-of-pocket expenses. The oldest daughter, the glass child, was parentified so her mother could work nights. She has now gone no contact with her mother and blocked her everywhere due to her childhood losses. The younger child has lived in the shadow of her autistic sister and has many issues going on. My daughter can't leave the 2 of them at home because the older sister becomes violent. When toddlers, the youngest had to have her hair cut short because her autistic sister would pull her long hair out by the roots, leaving her scalp injured. It was awful. My daughter is beautiful, but men who have professed their love for her have wanted to marry her, but not to take on her disabled daughter. My autistic granddaughter cannot self-entertain and is a Velcro person, so she is always there. It's been a family tragedy. My daughter is a prisoner in her own home. My ex-husband would not help. I worked full-time and went to school at night, so I was pretty much depleted. Plus, my autistic granddaughter is hard to keep. I love my granddaughter, but I would not wish her life or my daughter's life on my worst enemy. It hurts me to say this, but it would be a mercy to not bring this severely disabled child into the world. What a cruel thing to bring this unborn child into the world. The husband is out of his mind with grief and cannot see the whole picture. The wife needs to make up her own mind, even if that means making the sad choice to divorce. To the haters out there, unless you have walked in another person's shoes, you cannot understand this catastrophic situation. Update. Thank you all so much for the advice and kind words. I've read through them all. The empathy and compassion shown is truly touching. After I made my original post, my husband and I rushed to get a second opinion. Nothing changed, and it was still our original diagnosis. Once I learned that, I scheduled the termination for as soon as physically possible. I didn't tell my husband at first. He kept raving about how we could give her as much love in her life as we can. I feel bad for this now, but I snapped and angrily told him I was terminating the pregnancy, that I know how he feels, but I will not allow my daughter to suffer just because he wants to love her. He was very angry with me after I put my foot down. After he realized his pleading wouldn't change my mind, he didn't speak a word to me. It was like he refused to even acknowledge my existence. I was terrified that he'd go and leave me all alone with the scraps of our family. I tried to explain it to my son, but I think he still doesn't understand. Then, the night before the procedure, he stepped into my room, apologized for everything, and promised to be more supportive of me from now on. I was so happy and relieved I started to sob, and he held me all night. My original plan was for my mom to drive me to the hospital, and then, once it was done, a close friend would take me home. Since it was only the night before, he said he couldn't miss a full day of work but really wanted to drive me home. I agreed to let him, and the procedure was done in the morning. My son is having a long sleepover with my best friend's family. I don't want him to see me like this. The next morning, the termination was done. It went fine, with only minor physical pain, but the emotional toll was crushing. Afterward, he didn't show up to get me. I waited for hours, and he wouldn't answer any of my calls. I ended up having to call a friend out from work to take me home. When we got there, I saw just one note on the counter saying he couldn't do this. A few of our daughter's special toys were removed from her nursery. My entire life has fallen apart in a matter of days. I asked my mom to watch my son for a little while. I still can't contact my husband. Everything feels so pointless. Relevant comments. I'm a doctor, and I work in the ICU, where I see children exactly like the one you may have had. If I were in your shoes, I'd make the same choice. I know you feel broken, but I assure you that you've made the right decision for your daughter. She's at peace now and will never feel the horrible pains that would have awaited her had she been born.
Subscribe, yeah, 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 yeah.